Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live on a Saturday for a Q&A. Also going to be talking about the Chargers updated practice squad. Maybe get some thoughts about Sony Michel. I know I was able to do my video. We haven't had a chance to talk to Tyler and Alex about Sony Michel, so we'll definitely chat about all of that. And yeah, obviously you can tell by the theme today, college football is back. So hopefully, if you're a college football fan, your team wins today, unless you are rooting for USC. Anybody else can win.
You're now going to lose, Steven. I hope you know that.
Oh, wait. Hold on. I was rooting for Florida. Are they allowed to win today?
No, anybody except for Florida and USC can win today.
Sounds good. Hey, I'm just USC, big history in the Big Ten, really rooting for that historic franchise.
Luckily, I know that you're not actually a huge USC football fan, or else I would be having a hard time right now, but it's all good. Alex, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Doing good. As a storied Big Ten franchise myself, I hope Rutgers doesn't get their asses kicked by Boston College today. So out of conference game, start 1-0.
There you go. Boston. Is it at Boston College or in New Jersey?
Boston College.
There we go. Tyler, obviously last night we got to interview Mr. Braden Fajoko. How'd you like that interview, and how you doing today?
It was great. I immediately was worried that my comment about his career was going to hurt his feelings, but it apparently did not. So we're okay.
Yeah, for those who don't know what Tyler is talking about, just watch the first. I mean, you should watch the whole thing, obviously, but watch the first 2 minutes or so of the interview. Had a little connection issue with Braden's Wi-Fi or something like that, and it was a great time, though. Great time. All right. Well, first and foremost, I mentioned it. I want to get your guys' thoughts on Sony Michel. Obviously, we've had a little bit of time to simmer on the decision for the Chargers to sign Sony Michel, essentially to come in and continue the RB2 competition with Mr. Joshua Kelly. Isaiah Spiller is still recovering from an ankle injury. Alex had a great day, that specific day, getting Sony Michel and, Jalen Reagor was also traded from the Eagles. So in all seriousness, Alex, what are your thoughts about the addition of Sony Michel?
Wouldn't have needed him if we drafted Khalil Herbert. But anyway, I think that the addition of Sony Michel is good. I think they just needed insurance when it came to their RB3, RB4, and how they handled that whole situation. Joshua Kelly looked better in the preseason, but still, when it comes to regular season play, there's still an expectation that we don't know what to expect from him at this point still. I did think he looked a lot better as a runner in the preseason, more decisive. But adding someone like Sony Michel, who I think is just a familiar veteran presence around the league, is really good. So, if something happens to Austin Eckler, which did last year, you don't have to rely on a rookie, Joshua Kelly, and Larry Rountree to, get you through that time period that he's out. And I think that's what Sony Michel kind of brings to the table as a bit of a stabilizing force. I know people will say he didn't have the best preseason, and Miami fans will say he looked washed. But he's here to be the RB3, RB4. He's not here to be the RB2 or a decisive presence or 1A, 1B with Austin Eckler. He's just there to support the group. So I personally think it's a really good move just to bolster the depth. And, as far as Larry Rountree, I think they just needed someone better because he wasn't cutting in the preseason. And they basically, out from the beginning of the preseason said it's going to be Kelly and Rountree, competing for that spot. And in the nature of competition, I think Kelly won that, and they decided to bring in someone that, Brandon Staley and people are familiar with, and Sony Michel. So I really like the decision.
Yeah, we've heard it from Braden Fajoko now, which apparently was from Jay Rogers, which we sort of heard from Brandon Staley as well. They just like bringing in some guys who are just established guys that just do their jobs. Now, some of them are Khalil Mack and Corey Linsley, who are all pros, and some of them, can be like a Sony Michel. Sometimes you just need a guy who just knows how to do his job. This is not a great comparison, but I kind of think of Dameon Pierce out of college, who wasn't our RB1 or RB2. I think it was your 3 and my 4, at least, Steven.
Mm-hmm.
Is he an elite athlete? No. Is he a breakaway home run hitter? No. Is he really the most elite player running back we've seen? No. But there's something to be said about a guy who just does his job. and is good at his job. And clearly it shows really well in the preseason for Dameon Pierce. And for Sony Michel, not really the most dynamic player you'll ever see, but you're not getting -2 yards. You're not really dancing. You're not wasting time. You're not, oh, I know, how do I pick up this blitz? No, it's all there. You don't have to really coach Sony Michel. Justin Herbert doesn't have to worry about getting him lined up correctly, I would assume, before the snap. You just focus on what's in front of you. Sony Michel will take care of the rest. And, Gavino and you point out a couple of clips where Sony Michel definitely can do that. Couldn't say the same for someone like a Larry Rountree. I really like the way they've approached this offseason where, if it doesn't work out with whatever their plan was, there seems to be a plan B. Don't get that slot corner, or at least a starting caliber slot corner in the draft, or an edge rusher. You get your Kyle Van Noy, you get your Bryce Callahan, all good. We have 2 running backs that we drafted. We'll give them a chance. Okay, Kelly looks good. Rountree does not. We'll move on. I really like the process of how they've approached a lot of things this offseason. So really solid signing. My biggest question really is, what is his expected role? To me, it seems like Eckler RB1, Kelly temporary RB2. Is Spiller more your receiving back, and then like Michel's your RB3? Is Michel here to be RB2? I really don't know, because this is a guy who's shown more than Joshua Kelly, isn't younger by any means, and certainly has more mileage, but technically he's probably a more reliable RB2 right now, gun to my head, even though they'll make Kelly probably that guy. So I'm really curious what his role is moving forward.
Yeah, this is the kind of move that we wanted all off season long, and not necessarily, we didn't obviously want them to go out and get, a legitimate RB2 and go pay a lot of money for, a Chase Edmonds or a James Conner. That would have been nice, but I just wanted somebody established that the Chargers would be able to trust. I think looking at a room, even with an improved Joshua Kelly, right, Larry Rountree, Isaiah Spiller, if anything had happened to Austin Eckler, you feel awful about that depth and awful about the Chargers rushing attack in having to rely upon those guys. I mean, you're looking at Sony Michel's track record over the last couple of seasons. I mean, in 2020, New England kind of did the Damien Harris thing, but I mean, we're talking about a guy who's gone over 1,000 yards twice. He nearly did it last year in limited action with the Rams, and he's somebody that just kind of stabilizes the position. And so, Tyler's talking about all the things that we were kind of hoping for at the position. I think my favorite thing about Sony is that he will consistently make the first guy miss. And that's something that was sorely lacking out of the running backs last year, not named Justin Jackson and Austin Eckler. And, we've seen Joshua Kelly improve in that regard for sure. But last year there were far too many negative rushing plays from this team, in part because of the roster construction, in part because Joshua Kelly just didn't have that ability. Larry Rountree doesn't have that vision or athletic ability, which is just kind of a very poor mix. Now you're talking about 3 running backs, and we'll see about Isaiah Spiller, but you feel comfortable with the 3 running backs and getting you at least positive yards, even if you just get 2 yards on a carry. That's not necessarily a great run blocking play. I feel confident that Austin Eckler, Sony Michel, Joshua Kelly can get those extra yards, make somebody miss, get 3-4 yards, and not necessarily, put you behind the sticks on an early down. So I'm a big fan of Sony Michel. In terms of his role, I think we'll see them start the season in kind of a 2A, 2B situation. I would expect Kelly to be the 2A, just because he's kind of earned that. He's been here in camp. He knows the playbook. He knows what to expect. But Sony, I think Sony ends up being second on this team in carries. I really do, behind Austin Eckler, assuming all parties are healthy. So I'm excited about Sony, man. I think there's a lot of value there. Gavino pointed out the pass protection ability as well, which, again, we know that Joshua Kelly has been improving, but how does that translate to a game? Now you don't have to worry about that. Okay, if Joshua Kelly's not comfortable, if that improvement was just kind of a training camp thing, now you can put in Sony Michel. You can put in 2 running back sets with Austin Eckler. I think this just kind of stabilizes the position, and this is what we wanted from the jump.
I think it's also just the transition to a modern NFL offense a little bit too, right? In terms of how team like San Francisco is doing running back by committee and just, throwing out a bunch of guys out there. You have your Austin Eckler as your 1, and then it doesn't really matter who 2, 3, and 4 are when you have Joshua Kelly, Isaiah Spiller, and I was about to say Larry Rountree, and Sony Michel. when you have those three guys behind Austin Eckler, you can just give it to whoever has the hot hand. And I think that's what the NFL is transitioning to in terms of, how you can attack a team that is bad with pass catching running backs, how you can attack a team that is more resistant to someone who runs like Joshua Kelly, right? So I think the Chargers can kind of pick and choose their moments with the four guys they have now versus before. Outside of Austin Eckler, they were just a little bit limited.
Yeah, I'm just real quick bring up, I know sharp football can be somewhat of a bad word for someone like Arjun, but at least the numbers are numbers. And just looking at Larry Rountree's success rate, 17% off left tackle, 20%, behind the tackle or whatever, 100% behind the left guard. That's good. And then 50%, 0%, 40%. Just not really great numbers for, Kelly or Rountree. But Rountree's numbers were obviously not that great. Let me see if I can pull up Sony Michel's real quick. I don't have a way to compare them side by side, but just looking at the two, that's a little better. It's not immensely better for last year for the Rams, but I'll take that over 17%, 0%. Having that, I guess, 50% success rate average isn't terrible or as bad at least.
Yeah, and we talked with, or Arjun talked with Joshua Kelly just about yards after contact, and again, that's something that Sony I think really excels in. So obviously the Chargers do end up deciding to cut Larry Rountree. He is currently on the practice squad. We'll get to those group of players now. Also on the practice squad, they only have 15, so they still have one more spot to fill up. But on the practice squad, offensive tackle Zach Bailey, wide receiver Michael Bandy, defensive lineman Christian Covington, and Joe Gaziano, which is kind of a big surprise to us. Cornerback Keemon Hall, cornerback Michael Jaquette, I guess is how you say that, according to Chris Harry on Chargers Weekly. Tight end Hunter Campmoyer, outside linebacker, edge rusher Carlo Kemp, safety Raheem Lane, Alex's guy, Rutgers linebacker Tyreek Maddox Williams, and then receivers Jason Moore, Joe Reed, and then rounding it out are Foster Sarrell, Mark Webb, and of course Larry Rountree. So Tyler, we'll start with you. Initial thoughts on the Chargers practice squad?
Some surprises for sure. One being Joe Gaziano. I figured at this point he's put up enough good tape, preseason mostly and some regular season, to go somewhere else. And we had heard from several people in the building that he was like, I'd like to go somewhere else and get my shot. So to see him back was definitely a surprise. The non-surprise and the other initial thought is Michael Bandy being back. Arjun pretty early on pointed out that internally the scouts thought, hey, don't feel so great about this particular body type. Yes, he produces, but it's not our kind of wide receiver. And the league felt the same. Obviously, he cleared waivers and ends up on the practice squad. So that's great. Overall, this practice squad looks really, really good. I am a little curious about the distinguishing Raheem Lane as a safety, Mark Webb as a DB. I should ask, I guess, but is Raheem Lane more like your free safety in this scenario? Then is Mark Webb more your strong safety? I don't know. I would assume that's kind of what they're getting at. But overall, pretty solid practice squad. And I'm really surprised to see also them just stack defensive linemen on this team. You have 6 that they kept on the roster. You still have Covington. You still have Gaziano. I think that speaks to some sort of plan. Now, we talked to Fehoko yesterday. He said he didn't know. There was just, the personal people decisions. They make those decisions. Not really sure why we kept 6. But, happy to be here, obviously. But it seems like there's something here that maybe they're kind of planning. I don't know if it's just because they don't feel Otito is ready for big snaps. So someone like Covington may be activated, every once in a while because Otito's maybe isn't ready. But they're really, really stacking at this position. I'm curious to see what they do with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all of the guys you would expect. Congrats to Jason Moore for achieving his 15th year with the Chargers. So he'll be here on the practice squad. But yeah, I mean, Michael Bandy played well in the preseason, and you wanted to see him back, as well as even, someone like Joe Reed, who obviously had a good first preseason game, then kind of went quiet from there. But we heard pretty good things about him through training camp. They just didn't have space on the roster for him. But yeah, Carlo Kemp, Joe Gaziano. I was a little surprised no one really picked up Christian Covington. That was kind of a surprise for me. I did think some team who maybe just was struggling with defensive depth on their line would maybe give him a call, but maybe they also watched the tape from last year and then they didn't. So, I think him being back on the practice squad is great, though. Instead of being, your 6th defensive tackle who replaces Braden Fehoko, he's your 7th guy you call up on the practice squad potentially on a game day, or injuries happen. And I think he's a perfect guy for that kind of role. Mark Webb, interesting. I guess they're kind of going to let him heal up on the practice squad. And then maybe at some point later in the year, he'll get kind of called up to the roster, because it seems like Brandon Staley and that they all still like him in the building internally. So I'll be curious to see kind of what his role is going forward in future seasons, when he does kind of heal up from injury, because it felt like he was going to make the roster and they wanted him to make the roster, but, the health just kind of got in the way and they end up keeping Alohi Gilman. But other than that, I think it's pretty expected group of guys. I'm happy to see someone like Carlo Kemp here who, played really well towards the back half of the preseason. And yeah, overall, really good group. And you feel good if there's like 1 or 2 injuries and you have to call these guys up. Now, if you get to like a 2019 Chargers situation where there's a lot of injuries, of course, no practice squad is going to like stabilize that. But I think that this is a pretty good group to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel good about this group. And I guess in terms of the surprises, I figured that, Joe Gaziano would be gone. I figured Covington would be gone. And Zach Bailey, too, was somebody that I thought would get picked up around the league. So those 3 players, I'm glad that they are back. In terms of the Michael Bandy stuff, and I understand, like, I feel like he earned the roster spot, but everybody around the league is doing the power slot thing. Everybody. And that includes even like the Patriots, who, their slot receiver right now is Kendrick Bourne, who's like 6'1" and he's like 220, or not 220. That's way too much. It's like 205, 210. But everybody is doing the big slot guys, and that's just not who Michael Bandy is. I think if anything happens to the, DeAndre Carter, you feel comfortable with Michael Bandy kind of stepping into that role, returning kicks, returning punts, and being the 5th slot receiver. But he's so penciled into working out of the slot that I think it really just kind of limits his options around the league. So excited to have him back, though. Like I said, you feel good about him being insurance. Like LDE Bruin says on in the chat, Jamal Davis, another edge rusher. I'm surprised that they only have 1. I mean, they only have 3 on the active roster, plus whatever you have in Kyle Van Noy. So they do have 1 more spot on the practice squad. I would like to see that go to an edge rusher. I don't think Emeka Egbele has signed anywhere. I don't think Jamal Davis has signed anywhere. So they could certainly still bring one of those guys back this week. If not, there are other options around the league. But that is the one spot that I'm like, okay, if anything happens if anything happens even to Chris Rumpf, you're like, okay, who's playing backup edge? I don't feel great about this situation. So I would like to see them probably add an edge rusher on the active roster, but definitely at least on the practice squad.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised there's no Emeka Egbele or Jamal Davis, just because I figured one or both of them would honestly make the practice squad. I guess you could sort of say Carlo Kemp won that battle and sort of won them over in the latter stages of the preseason, which is a little bit surprising just because obviously Emeka Egbele has a lot of familiarity with the team, has been here for a while. Jamal Davis flashed in the preseason, but I think them going with Carlo Kemp was a very targeted signing by Tom Telesco, sort of earlier on the summer, and they seem to have really taken a liking to him. So, I mean, it says a lot about his game and how he's played that he was able to make the practice squad over those guys.
Yeah, potentially maybe good news for Ty Shelby then, because he did get away with the injury settlement. There's a certain number of weeks that he's has to miss or whatever, however that works. But within that certain number of weeks that I'm sorry I can't share, he can be back and they can bring him back. I assume that means they can also add him to the practice squad. It doesn't have to be an active roster thing. So maybe that's something they explore, and that's not a bad timetable. You kind of roll with these guys. Hopefully there's no catastrophic set of injuries between now and then maybe Ty Shelby's kind of your guy, because he does fit the prototype. Again, would have had the longest arms on the team if he made it. Elite athlete. I thought he was pretty good coming out of college in terms of an undrafted free agent. So maybe that's kind of his spot when he comes back.
Not an edge guy, but I also, when you said injury settlement, did think of Tavon Campbell, who, I mean, there could be an open spot potentially for him on the practice squad when he gets back. Obviously, his familiarity with the team, but definitely would like a little bit more edge depth considering Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa's health, and obviously, just the fact that they're not carrying many pure edges on the team right now, with Kyle Van Noy being the hybrid.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, so Larry Rountree will be the 15th player. They have one other spot. So we'll have to see what happens there. I was curious to see, like, they didn't sign any interior offensive linemen to a practice squad. I mean, obviously Ryan Hunter's kind of been that guy for the last couple seasons. So that could be something to keep an eye on too at some point. But again, they have a lot of quality depth on the active roster in terms of that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Did Quincy Roche sign somewhere? I felt like I saw him sign on a practice squad somewhere.
Ooh, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't actually know.
I didn't see anything, but I don't remember.
I mean, if he's not, then get him on the active squad. I don't even want to practice squad that guy. Get him on as edge 4 right now.
Yeah, I don't see it. Question for you guys, or even the chat: who do you think the wide receiver 6 is?
Ooh.
Probably Jason Moore.
That's what I was gonna say, man. Because like they have so many slot guys that can play in the slot. I feel like it would be Moore and then Reed, honestly.
Well, I mean, they could also play that based on whoever they're replacing, right? Because obviously, if Mike Williams goes down for a couple games or something, like then that's kind of a Jason Moore situation special. Yeah. If it's DeAndre Carter, then you would bring up Joe Reed. If it's maybe another receiver, perhaps like Keenan Allen or something, then maybe call Michael Bandy, right? So I mean, there's a bunch of different roles in terms of like how that might play out. I don't think obviously if like DeAndre Carter goes down, then you're calling up Jason Moore, right? So there's a lot of I guess ways that could go.
Yeah, that's fair. I think if you lose Guyton or Palmer, you're probably talking about Joe Reed, because Joe Reed, he's more of like the backside Z vertical threat kind of player. Jason Moore, more physical jump ball, X receiver. Mm-hmm. If DeAndre Carter goes down, I'm fairly certain that would be Michael Bandy's job, not Joe Reed's job. So, but I guess we'll see.
Or hopefully never see.
Or never see. Yeah, never see, obviously. Knock on wood. All right. So if you guys have any questions in the chat, that's obviously what we'll do for the next 40 minutes or so. As always, these super chats are encouraged and appreciated. Had a couple great super chat questions last night for Braden Fajoko. Got him talking about the Kendrick Lamar thing, which was fun to see. So always appreciate all of those. Shout out to Jesse Villalobos.
Can you update me on what he said about the Kendrick Lamar thing?
He'll review the film.
Yeah. Basically, he was saying that like it's kind of it's like a lack of versatility for Kendrick for him. Like he has to be like sit down and like be in a specific mood to listen to Kendrick, whereas like Drake he can listen to anytime. Is basically what he said. But he's only listened to the album one time through. Like Tyler said, he will review the film to get another feel for it.
Okay.
He's already been on the show, so you can say mean things now. Like he's already been on the show, so if you want to just,
I mean, it's just funny to hear him say Drake has versatility. I'm like, yeah, he's putting out 3 out of 10s for like 4 years now. It's been bad. So like, yeah, he can do a lot of things. Not well recently though.
Yeah. I've always liked Drake's singles, right? Like his singles are great, but then you listen to 1 through 15 all the way through, and you're like, 80% of these songs are trash.
Yeah, well, I mean, I listened to the most recent album. I don't remember what it was called, even Nevermind or something like that, and it just sounded like a H&M like soundtrack for 58 minutes, and it was just terrible.
Oh man, Teresa wants a Utah season preview. I don't know how we feel about that.
Have a good morning, everyone.
All right, I'm gonna leave the show.
Good show.
Oh my gosh. All right, we got our first super chat. Anthony Vu, appreciate it. Says, morning fellas, in your opinion, who finishes with the best defense in the AFC West, assuming no major injuries and JC comes back with no issues? Alex, what do you think there? Best defense in the AFC West?
Probably has to be the Chargers by default. I mean, Raiders have a lot of secondary issues. Their edges, obviously their edges are, sort of their team. So that's kind of there. Definitely not the Chiefs. Broncos, Probably not either. I mean, I love Patrick Surtain, but like, what else do you have up front there? So yeah, I mean, it would probably have to be the Chargers.
I would agree, especially if we're given the assuming no major injuries and we get JC Jackson, then sure. Like, yeah, it would be the Chargers. Yeah. Did this last year too, where we all thought they'd be top 10. Definitely did not work out. It won't be the Chiefs, but I'm horrified at how good they potentially could be if their guys work out. You watch the highlights of Leo Chanel in the preseason. Holy crap. That guy looks really, really ready to go. Brian Cook, I don't know if he looks good, but I was a fan of his. They've put some pieces together. Trent McDuffie, obviously. I don't think they'll be even top 2 in the AFC West, but I'm curious how good they can be. And I'm a little worried that they could be better than expected.
I think you definitely feel great about the Chiefs' future if you're, obviously a fan of that team and their defense, right? I mean, you're talking about, 2 first-round picks, George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie. You're talking about Brian Cook, who's going to be a safety 3 right away for them. Leo Chanel, just a hammerhead linebacker. Sounds like he's not going to start. Sounds like he's essentially Nick Bolton's backup. And they'll kind of live in nickel, but he'll get a lot of reps in kind of their base package and run defense and things like that. So obviously, if Leo Chanel is your 3rd best linebacker, you're probably doing pretty good at that position, unfortunately. So I don't think it'll be the Chiefs this year. They're too young. And they don't have like a ton of explosive play ability. Frank Clark is doing what Frank Clark does and looks great in preseason and training camp and gets a lot of people hyped up on him. And then, he's going to be bad in the regular season, like always. Obviously, they have Chris Jones, who's great. Yeah, they signed Carlos Dunlap. So I think you feel probably better about their defense long term, but short term, it's not going to be better than the top 20 unit, in my opinion. I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good at all on defense, and they just traded away their 2nd best cornerback for a bag of chips. So I think those teams are out of it. The Chargers feel like the safest pick here, but the Broncos with Surtain, Simmons, and it's a lot more question marks than the Chargers just based off of their personnel. But if Randy Gregory is focused and healthy, and if Bradley Chubb can get back to who he was a few seasons ago, we all like Draymond Jones. We all like, the nose tackle. I forget his name right now.
The one they drafted?
Yeah, no, the one that they signed.
Oh,
from the
DJ?
Niners. DJ Jones. Yeah, thank you. So if everything goes right for the Broncos, they could certainly be in the running, but that's a lot of questions. Bradley Chubb hasn't been healthy or good for like 3 years. Randy Gregory is never locked in. So they have the potential to be the best, but I think this is like Chargers by default.
Yeah, and it's almost one of those things where their offensive boost is obviously going to come because of Russell Wilson. We'll see what Nathaniel Hackett kind of does with that offense, but I do think honestly that defense would be better if Vic Fangio was still there. And I'd probably have a higher opinion of it, but they went with Russell Wilson and Nate Hackett, so I think they're looking for that offensive boost more so than the defensive.
I mean, they had a ton of injuries last year, specifically like linebacker, defensive end. They traded Von Miller in the middle of the season. I mentioned Bradley Chubb not being healthy, and they were still like a top 10 unit in DVOA, and they were still a top 10 unit in like scoring. Like, I think that they're going to miss Vic Fangio's just presence and ability to game plan and things like that for sure. As Evero kind of he sounds like a great coach, but it's going to take him a while to get going. Next super chat from Renee. Thoughts on the new football for Thursday night? Now, obviously, this is Amazon Prime. I watched a little bit of their preseason broadcast, and it's going to take them some time to work out some kinks. But, I mean, the cast of characters on that show is super entertaining. You're talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick and Richard Sherman and Andrew Whitworth kind of being the pre-cast. I think is super interesting. I like Kirk Herbstreit. I think he's a great announcer. So we'll see. I mean, in terms of college football, man, like Kirk is probably the best booth broadcast guy around.
I don't like Kirk Herbstreit.
Okay.
Wait. I'm confused. Wait, what is Al Michaels doing then?
Al Michaels is the play-by-play guy.
Okay. So it's him and Herbstreit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if they can figure out what 40 time Isaiah Spiller has, then they're already doing well.
I'm sure Kirk Herbstreit will love calling games where the players get paid.
Is he against that?
Yep. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Wait. Oh, I thought he was asking about that new football they designed for Thursday night, like that.
Oh, like literally the football.
Like
I thought he
literally
was
the football.
asking about the football thing, and they showed those
That's
videos
fake.
on Twitter.
Yeah, that's fake. Yeah,
it's fake.
Oh.
Well, obviously I knew they were gonna play games with it. I didn't know if it was like something they were advertising for like Thursday.
No, it's like a real football, but it's not. Like they're not going to use it in actual games. Like that would never happen. Having a different shaped football in the middle of the season that you just have to like transition to. No, that would take like a rules committee to pass off on that.
And Tom Brady would go undefeated on Thursday night games with Amazon. Then
Justin Herbert and Josh Allen throwing that thing around would be fun. But
yeah, absolutely. Chorizo with a super chat as well. He said, "How bad is the Raiders' offensive line heading into Week 1?" To me, it's clearly a bottom 7 offensive line in the league, and you're talking about
the specific.
It's Steven in offensive lines. Allow him.
I'm saying like 25 or under. Like they're clearly like 25 or below. You know, I think they're Colton Miller injury away from being the worst in the league, like by far. You know, I think you feel good about Colton Miller's ability there, but they've got question marks across the board outside of that. So, you know, that right side of the offensive line, you're talking about Thayer Munford or an undrafted free agent. I don't even know how to say his name, man. It's not
Lemonnier, but that's how I'll say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then is Dylan Parham's going to be their starting right guard?
I don't think they know. I don't think my dad says I don't think so.
So it's bad. Like the Raiders are going to put up a lot of points. It's going to be very similar to like the Bengals were last year, where it's going to be a lot of big plays, but like sustainability is not going to be great. Like there are going to be games where the Raiders don't score more than 17 points because their offensive line is so bad.
So they were 27th in the league last year in pass blocking efficiency with an 82.5.
Oh my God. And it's worse.
And it's going to get worse. So, you know, you just good luck. They're trying to pull like a early Telesco era Chargers Rivers sort of thing where it's like, well, we got the quarterback, we got some wide receivers. Good luck. And no line, no defense. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, we'll see if maybe Josh McDaniels can pull Dante Scarnecchia out of retirement or something. Like that's probably the only way.
I don't even think even Dante could make this work, man.
So the Raiders' PBE was so bad last year, even though they were 27th, that their PBE, pass blocking efficiency, was lower than the Chargers had in 2020.
Oh my God!
Even worse. So that's how bad their line is, in theory.
That's wild. That's wild. Okay, this is an interesting question. Who would take over the reins from Keenan and or Mike Williams first? Jalen Guyton, Josh Palmer, DeAndre Carter. I feel like Keenan is definitely Palmer. Like Palmer's like dedicated his life to studying Keenan Allen and like be a little more athletic version of Keenan Allen. So that's where Josh would play if anything happens to Keenan.
It'll depend. So last year Palmer subbed in for Williams and KJ Hill and who's the other guy? Oh, Jalen Guyton subbed in for Keenan Allen. So that's kind of how they did it last year. So I think, but obviously Palmer wasn't a starter, so things can definitely change. Palmer can kind of do either, I suppose. But if I had to like pick between those two, and that doesn't really make any sense. But Guyton for Keenan and Palmer for Williams, which is what they did last year.
Yeah.
Oh, I put the wrong one on here. Literally, who is this person? I have never heard of Lester Cotton in my life, and I love offensive line play. I don't know who this man is.
He made the Hall of Fame in like 56 or something. Like Lester Cotton.
Sounds like a D-tier Spider-Man villain. This Lester Cotton.
It's Cotton time.
It's cotton time.
I'm gonna look up who Lester Cotton is. Hold on. I've never heard of him until you wrote that, so thank you. Oh, was he
also the
so
name,
he was
like
undrafted free agent in 2019, who I don't think has ever played a regular season snap.
Oh, fun.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Field goal. Yeah.
Wow.
So
starting right guard. Wow.
Yeah.
That's bad. That's really bad.
Yeah. You know?
James Malia, is the Raiders offensive line Senio Clemente bad? Honestly, he probably would be a starter.
It sounds
there.
like it. I didn't know who the fuck Lester Cotton was, just like I didn't know who Senio Clemente was before he played. So,
oh man,
Lester Cotton Sr., by the way.
Oh.
Wait, how does that work?
Did he name his son Lester?
He must
Cotton
have just
also?
had a kid or something. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like
So he's
I don't know
Lester
how often I
Cotton
see the
Jr.
senior. Yeah. Wow.
It's like
How often do you see a senior?
There's another senior in the NFL somewhere else too, I think.
Yeah, I do think I've seen one. I don't remember who he is though.
I want to say
Well,
like
that's
one
the
of the
Raiders
receivers
line.
or something. All right. Next question I wanted to bring up again from James Malia. That's funny. He wants to know how we see the linebacker rotation and game day activity work out with 6 on the roster. So we obviously talked a lot about we've talked a lot about Kyle Van Noy's role, Kenneth Murray coming back. But Alex, we'll start with you here. What do you make of James's question here?
I mean, I think certainly from the jump they're going to do Kyle Van Noy and Kenneth Murray. That's what it sounds like. And then after that, you have your Tranquil and Troy Reader and all those guys sub in. Eamon Ogbongbemiga, probably the healthy scratch to start the season, assuming they go with 5 linebackers on game day. I guess in some situations they could also go 4. But Neiman's pretty valuable to play there too for special teams. So I mean that's kind of how it breaks down. I don't know if there's a lot more they'll do, but obviously depends on how fast Kenneth Murray comes along and if he can stay healthy. And obviously that can kind of change from week to week.
I'm kind of dicey where those inactives are going to be because usually it was like Larry Rountree, but you're not inactivating, Spiller or Michel or Kelly, at least not at this point. And, you have 6 DTs, but like you're probably keeping them all active. So I guess Amen or Neiman have to be the person that's inactive, but I don't know. I feel like they're okay with Tranquil out there right now. And I feel like Murray isn't really in any rush to get, well, he is, but I don't think they're in any rush to get him back out there. I think they're really happy with this kind of happy accident of Kyle Van Noy right now. So I don't know. I think it might be Tranquil out there week 1 with Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, when I tweeted out my initial concern about the edge rusher spot, everybody was like, well, Kyle Van Noy is just going to play a lot of edge rusher then. And it's like, I think they want him at linebacker. I think they want him being the middle of their defense and, being the leader of the defense in the middle. I think he'll rush the passer in certain designer packages, when they go to dime, maybe they bring him down and kick Joey Bosa inside or Khalil Mack inside. And Drew Tranquil is your other linebacker or Kenneth Murray or something. But like at this point, I would expect like 85% of Kyle Van Noy's snaps to be at linebacker. And I'm with Tyler. I think that right now you're talking about Drew Tranquil as the starter. That could certainly change as they kind of ease Kenneth Murray back into full-time action. But I think it's going to be Kyle Van Noy and Tranquil starting, and then Murray, Reader will be the 2 primary backups. And like Alex said, I do agree with him that Amen is probably going to be a healthy scratch on game days and be that inactive player, because carrying 6 linebackers on the active roster on game day I think is a lot to ask, because then you're just losing depth somewhere else, because that means you probably are only having 5 defensive tackles or the 3 running backs, or it's 7 offensive linemen. So everything on game day is a numbers game, because you have 53 players on the roster, but you can only have 47 active on game day. So I think having all 6 on the active game day roster is probably a little bit too much of an ask. So I would expect Amen or Neiman to maybe they alternate like the running backs did last year on who's playing and who's not playing. But they won't have all 6 on the game day.
Yeah, I think Neiman is active just because of the special teams, and then I think he'll always just be that special teams guy. But of course, we'll see with injuries. I get to do it. Yeah, Mom, thanks for the super sticker. I appreciate it. I get to see it on YouTube also. It's way cooler on YouTube than it is on our stream. So thank you.
That's fair. Wanted to bring up Brett's question here. What could Herbert's statistical peak be this season? 6,000 yards, 60 total touchdowns. Seems like the cast around him this year and the defense that should theoretically get him the ball more could get him nuclear. Tyler, what do you think?
I think he actually, his stats drop this year, but through no fault of his own. I think if you talk about EPA per play, I think if you talk about turnover worthy play rate, all that stuff, I think that all looks about the same. But they're carrying 4 running backs, and I think they feel pretty good about it. And they got Zion Johnson so they could run to the right more, and they got DeAndre Carter for some handoffs, and and they have a really good defense, or in theory they do. I think they're putting way less stress on Justin Herbert this year. I don't think he has to put up as much numbers. I think the efficiency numbers, all that will still look the same. Fantastic, top 5 in the league, no problem. I don't think he'll throw under 4,000 yards by any means. I just think that instead of going up this year, I think he just becomes a better, play caller, better audibling, better at drawing people off sides and, whatever. I don't know if he'll really push, he won't hit 6,000 yards, obviously. That's not really realistic, but I actually think he goes down a bit this year because, again, he had 43 total touchdowns, 5,000 total yards or whatever. There's only so much more up you can go. I think he will either stay about the same or drop down a bit, and that's good. I want that. I want him to be able to hand the ball off and someone get 80 yards for him.
Yeah.
I want the defense to get a pick 6 for him. That's what I'd like to see this year.
Yeah, a lot of Justin Herbert's statistical success last year obviously was the Chargers needed him to be Superman every single week, and that's why you get a 5,000 yard, 43 total touchdown season. I think touchdowns could go up a little bit, just because of their red zone potential that they have. I mean, you're talking about just very large human beings, being his main pass catch, and I think the efficiency in the red zone should definitely increase this year. So I could see him throwing for 40 something touchdowns, but I don't think he throws for that many more yards this year. I think you're also going to be in more positive game scripts because hopefully you are leading more games. So we'll do our final stat predictions probably at some point before the season, but right now, before I really kind of nail it down, I would say probably 4,800 yards, 40 passing touchdowns is probably where I end up at.
I'll go on the higher end. I'll say 45 touchdowns, 5,000 yards as the ceiling. Yeah, I mean, they have DeAndre Carter and they're carrying 4 running backs, but I still think they're going to ask Justin Herbert to obviously do a lot, and he's going to have to win them games. So yeah, hopefully in theory they should have a better running game, but I still don't think that's going to stop them from letting Justin Herbert chuck it all over the field. And with a better offensive line than what we saw at, points in the middle of the season last year, you should be able to get more of those go ball, deep ball opportunities, which obviously kind of inflate yardage and touchdowns and all those metrics. So I would go on the higher end, say max 45 touchdowns and probably the 5,000 yard mark.
Yeah. In terms of deep balls, right? I think people are going to get their wish a little bit more this year and have the opportunity to throw the ball deep a little bit more because of Zion Johnson. And I think they feel better about Trey Pipkins than they did about Storm last year. Mm-hmm. So I think you see another step forward in this too with Sony Michel as a pass protector, Trey McKitty taking a step forward as a pass protector. And I think you can create more deep shot opportunities because of that.
Did you guys get a chance to watch the Arjun's video, the analytics video about Herbert's ADOT and all that sort of stuff?
I have not yet. No.
There was one point where, so Herbert last year threw more interceptions than he had turnover-worthy plays, which speaks just to his bad luck last year. So hopefully that returns to normal, if you will, and he gets under 10.
Yeah. The interception dialogue on social media and on sports shows is so funny to me. It's like, Herbert threw 15 interceptions. So did Josh Allen. Matthew Stafford led the league in interceptions, and people think he's better than Justin Herbert. It's like, do more research. all of you can get a PFF access PFF account for free, probably. Like, it takes 2 seconds to look it up.
Right.
Another super chat from Chorizo. Always appreciate it. Of the first 5 games, which one is the most absolute must win? Which loss would feel the worst? I think must win. You have to start 1-0. I think the other 3 games after the first 2 are I think the Chargers should win those 3 games pretty easily. So you're talking about week 1 or week 2. So I think you have to start week 1. I think you can stomach a loss to the Chiefs on a short week in Arrowhead more than you could a loss to the Raiders on opening week at home after everything that's kind of happened this offseason. And of course, like the fan situation as well.
Yeah, it's only one game. If they lose to the Raiders, they would only start 0-1. But I honestly couldn't take their season seriously for like another 10 weeks and 10 straight wins if they lose to the Raiders. You can't finish the season like that last year, spend hundreds of millions of dollars and draft, I think, pretty well and sign good players and then go lose to the Raiders at home. Like, you can't do that. This is the game you've been thinking about. And I know, Fahoko says not like particularly like
not political,
revenge. Yeah. It's not political, but like, I mean, kind of bullshit, right? Like some of these guys want to go out there and I would love to see a blowout. Like I just want them to get out their frustrations and just beat the snot out of them. Maybe it won't happen, but they have to win. I can't take you seriously if you talk about all this all year and you sign all these players and you lose the Raiders at home. I couldn't take you seriously for a good long while.
That was a little bit more harsh than I was expecting. No, they should win that Raiders game. Must win though at 0-1, and you get a chance to play them again. I mean, I don't know, that classifies as a must win. Obviously, I think in the macro in those first 2 games with Raiders Chiefs, I think you have to win one of those 2 games, right?
Sure.
You would like to win 2, but I think you just starting 0-2 in the division would put you in a rough spot as far as tiebreakers, even if you go on some like winning streak later in the year. The must-win games, if you're talking about the first 5, are Jaguars, Texans, and Browns without Deshaun Watson. Like, you have to win all 3 of those games. There's no excuse to drop a single egg. This isn't, Houston and 20 players are on the COVID list and Rex Burkhead. Like, we're not doing that anymore. Like, you have to win those games, especially as the schedule gets harder later in the season. So, for me, I know people are going to focus a lot on the Chiefs and Raiders, and rightfully so. But you also have to take care of business in the 3 games that they should win after that, if we're talking about those first 5.
Yeah, absolute worst case scenario for this team should be 4-1 after the first 5 games. Like, I agree. Like, if you split the first 2, I feel okay about it. I would obviously really like you to have the win be against the Raiders, but you have to beat those 3 teams. I get what Alex is saying for sure. If you start 0-2, though, I think everybody is going to start, pouring the doubt train on you, and it's going to be same old Chargers. Like they're not serious contenders after all this. So I think at 1-1 you're okay. If you can go 2-0, obviously fantastic. But I like if you lose to the Chiefs, I almost like don't care if you beat the Raiders also. I'm okay losing at Arrowhead on a short week, like I said, but if you lose to the Raiders, I'm not going to be a happy camper.
No, and honestly, we need them to. It's a must-win for me, for us, because there's more money when we win. Nobody watches us when we lose, so winning is good. Starting off hot is good.
And supposedly, I'm the Jew on this podcast. I mean,
I'm Chinese. We're about the same thing.
Yeah,
we park our starships in the same shuttlecraft areas.
I mean, I have to pay a mortgage in the next couple months. Like, I would love more money. So, all right, good questions. So we'll take questions for about 10 more minutes, guys. If you haven't asked a question, or if we missed yours from earlier, feel free to do that.
Chorizo had a good one earlier. Oh, he asked, what's the best and worst broadcast team?
I mean, in terms of the NFL guys, I really like Charles Davis and Ian Eagle. Those two I think are really, really good. Worst for me is probably what's his name? Not Trent Green, the other guy who played for the Raiders. What was his name? He's like CBS's like 6th-string broadcast, and the Chargers got him all the time in 2020.
Don't remember.
I don't know. I get. Call my dad. Hold on. Phone a friend.
If we're talking about the local broadcasts, whenever Mark Schlereth is on for Fox, I find that really annoying.
Yeah, Mark's a little obnoxious for sure.
Yeah, trying to think.
I will say Fouts was rough this preseason because they'd have the one guy talk and then they'd cut to film or whatever, and you could clearly tell Fouts was reading like straight up a script, and then they'd cut back to him and it would be the other guy would talk, then they'd cut away while Fouts was talking because he was clearly reading a script. It's like, geez. So not great.
The dynamics there too. I'm like, we got like a mid-20s-year-old and however old Dan Fouts is. I just didn't like. I mean, it's preseason broadcasting, right? But get LT in the booth, man. Like, why are we not doing LT in the booth? I don't understand why we make LT do the sideline stuff.
Yeah, I like whenever Kevin Harlan does the games for Fox. He's fun.
Kevin's good.
Philip Rivers, people bring him up in the chat. God, I don't know how someone hasn't offered him like a broadcast job or something yet, because he would be like the perfect Monday Night Football, like whatever kind of guy. But yeah, I would say nationally, I think Buck Aikman is probably the best broadcast. I know Joe Buck gets a lot of shit, but like
people don't like Joe Buck.
I know, but like he's the best like announcer at doing it. Nance is okay too. I would kind of say Romo Nance, but Romo I think fell off compared to how he started earlier in the seasons that he started.
He tries too hard now. He tries way too hard now.
I do think he does try a little too hard. I'd probably say Buck Aikman.
The NBC broadcast is always, I mean, Al Michaels is arguably like one of the best broadcasting people ever, but
is it Collinsworth and Tirico now?
Yeah, it's Collinsworth and Tirico, and I really like Mike Tirico. I think he's fantastic at what he does, but Chris Collinsworth is so hard to listen to.
I hate him. God, I do not hate any man more than Chris Collinsworth. He tried to piss all over the Eagles Super Bowl so bad. He wanted the Patriots. I hate him.
He's got an agenda each broadcast for sure.
Yeah.
Who is on Monday Night Football this year?
Buck and Aikman.
Monday's Buck and Aikman, yeah.
I can't even keep track anymore.
Well, Buck and Aikman and Peyton and Eli.
Yeah.
ESPN too.
And then there's like a couple games where it's going to be the guys who used to do it, Louis Riddick, I think Dan Orlovsky, and Levy. Bruce Levy, is that his name? Sean Levy?
Sean?
The weeks
Steve?
that Aikman and Buck have predetermined in their contracts to take off to Costa Rica.
When they're like, they get, like Washington and the Giants or some shit. Yeah, Scott Childs says he actually really likes Joe Buck, so he's with you.
Yeah. Shame he won't be on the World Series anymore because he's not with Fox, but
need more Rex Ryan.
Oh God. Him and his old linebacker, what's his name? Scott, who played for the Ravens and the Jets. Bart Scott.
Bart
yeah.
Scott.
That guy's a fucking moron. I can't stand listening to him when he goes on ESPN.
Oh yeah, they do that thing on like ESPN Radio where Bart Scott and like all the New York guys like fill in. Alan Hahn. Yeah, it's like unlistenable.
What is the worst broadcast team you could possibly think of based on TV personalities?
If we would have put
like a fantasy draft of like the top two, or maybe like a sideline guy.
Can I get Chris Collinsworth and Bart Scott together?
Chris Collinsworth is the number one pick. I'm trying to think of like a really terrible like announcer guy to go with him.
Like a play-by-play guy? Like
Chris Collinsworth and like Hubie Brown. Like that like 80. They just get like 90-year-old Hubie Brown out there. Like, that would be the worst one.
Oh man. How do you guys feel about Gus Johnson, the guy who does college football for Fox?
Oh,
I
he's
love
awesome.
Gus.
I love it. Yeah, I love whenever he does like an NFL game, like when Jamal Agnew got that touchdown for the Jags last year, and he was the one on that one.
He went
that
crazy,
was fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm totally blanking on the guy who's with him, the blonde guy who was quarterback at Colorado.
Oh, I don't remember his name either.
Oh my gosh, I should know this, but
Gus Johnson and don't remember.
I'm gonna remember this after we log off, and it's gonna piss me off.
Well, someone's gonna say it in the chat, I assume.
Yeah, we'll just awkwardly pause till somebody helps us out.
Rich Gannon, that was the Raiders guy I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Yes, Rich Gannon fucking sucks as a broadcaster.
I'm bummed I didn't remember that one. Sorry, Dad.
Sorry, Papa Shun.
Booger McFarland and Chris Collinsworth is probably the worst thing I could come up with.
All right, let's get to another question here. Dong Too Long wants to know who the biggest surprise player of the year for the Chargers.
Oh, yeah, he was at Thanksgiving last year.
Nice. Oh my Lanta. Is this like a breakout question, or is this are we taking this literally like someone that would surprise us?
Oh. I don't know. How do you take Dong Too Long's question, Steven? What do you think?
Do you take it on top or on bottom of the stream?
Oh, shit. You gotta change that username, man. I mean, I think if you had asked me this question like a month ago, and then we like had the knowledge that we had now, like Jot Taylor has been a very pleasant surprise for me. Chris Rumph as well, you know, seeing his kind of off-season hype become legitimate or potentially become legitimate. I would say those two players.
Sorry, I'm not paying attention anymore.
Joel Klatt is the guy who's with
Joel Klatt. Thank
Gus
you,
Johnson.
Alex. Thank you, Joel Klatt.
Thanks for Rizzo Conpapas, because I wasn't going to remember that fucking guy's name.
Oh. Shout out. Oh my God. Scott Kaplan has the Gus Johnson Award of the week here in San Diego. Imagine Scott Kaplan calling games with like Chris Collinsworth.
Just like Scott Kaplan and like Dan Orlovsky calling Chargers games. With like Warren Sharp doing sideline stuff.
Such a strange individual. Yeah. Derek's brother, that would also be a bad one. That guy just, all he talks about is the Raiders. Like, it doesn't even matter the context.
Wow, did the Chargers get a D from Bleacher Report for the draft class?
Wait, is that like did they like regrade after the preseason?
After preseason games?
Let me look it up.
I don't know, man. I don't know who they got writing over at Bleacher Report. I don't think it's anyone good anymore because half of the NBA trades they put out don't even make sense, and the teams don't even have the picks that they trade in those. So I don't know.
I mean, they have a good NFL draft guy. I know Brandon Thorne writes for them for the draft, and Nate Tice. Well, he used to because he's doing The Athletic now. Brent Soboleski, I think his name is. He's good as well. Couldn't tell you about their NBA coverage. Don't really pay attention to that.
I don't know how you give them a D. Probably because they didn't have a second round pick. So like, well, couldn't find a good player.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really talking about like their preseason grades, like, I mean, obviously they get points for Zion, they get points for Jamari, Ja Taylor. Isaiah Spiller's been hurt, but he's looked good when he's been out there. Oh, it's Maurice Moton. Okay. So I know him. I think he's a Raiders guy too. So there you go. Apparent Asma says all the ESPN LA guys hate the Chargers. Yeah, I believe it.
And we hate them.
Bill Plaschke always hates on the Chargers too. I know he's LA Times, but I used to love that guy growing up, and then he just shit on the Chargers every time he gets the chance to.
So the Raiders got a B-. And we
sure.
We got a D. Do you want me to put it on the screen? Do you want to read it?
Why not? Why not?
All right, hold on 1 second. Just say some things. Do you guys know how they name Asian kids?
How do they name Asian kids?
You just throw pots and pans down the stairs, and whatever sound it makes, it's how you name them.
Jesus.
And that's how you get dong too long, or
ping pong.
Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. It's loading.
Cool. Alrighty. Hold on. Yeah, so there's they don't have individual grades. Yeah, there you go. Did you want me to read it? Or
yeah, go for it.
Crap. Okay. The Chargers added a starter with their first selection and depth with the rest of their picks. At guard, Johnson will provide a boost to the Chargers' ground attack. Sawyer, with his starting experience at multiple positions on the collegiate level, can move into the first unit in spot city on the interior, blah, blah, blah. Woods may replace Adderley, but he struggled, sure. Spiller is off to a slow career start. Okay, it's the preseason. Spiller recorded 13 carries for 37 yards. Could miss a game. And I just won't talk about the rest of the players. So it's just like it's Johnson, it's Woods, it's like Spiller, and then that's it. So I guess he missed the rest of
Did you watch the games?
Class. Because like Otito, Sawyer, Taylor, Dean, Horvath. I'm not saying it's a great draft, like the greatest draft class ever, but I mean
he didn't talk about at all any game action except for Woods' missed tackles and Spiller's yardage.
So what you could Google. What the
box score writing.
Rams got a D-. It's just an LA thing or something. I don't know. I mean, until round 3, I guess.
I mean, Logan Bruss tore his ACL like on the first day of practice. So
did anybody get an A? Like, who got a good... Don't tell me it's the Patriots. No, we did not have the same grade draft class the freaking Patriots. Give me a break. We didn't take Tyquan Thornton in round 2. Get out of here. C-. A. Who got an A? The Giants? Fine. I guess.
Overdrafted
first round picks
quite a bit.
Hey, Tyler, Chorizo Compapa says he's going to use that joke when he goes to China.
Okay. Good luck. We have slightly more freedom of speech here.
Yeah. I don't know if I would.
You out.
I don't know if I would tell that joke to Emperor Qi if I were you. But
is that his name?
Qi? Yeah, Xi Jinping.
Oh, okay.
How'd you not know like the Emperor of China was?
Why would I know that?
Yeah, he's like he's like their president. I mean, he's a little more of a dictator, less of a president, but like
B- for the Eagles, by the way.
Oh man, we're really off the rails in the last 15 minutes.
It's okay. We barely lost any of our audience.
I mean, Xi Jinping does sound like someone threw pots and pans down the stairs, if that was just to bolster your argument, but
yeah, exactly. I've just been here for so long that I have a German last name.
Schön German?
Yeah, so
is Insdorf.
Wow, look at us.
Wow.
Just two Germans cutting it off. Always been a fan of the Germans.
Rich history between Asia and Germany, just what was I gonna say?
Between my people and
I am not German.
That's great. Good to know. All right, back on track. Dad John says the Chargers have all the tools to win next Saturday or Sunday and the division. Just do your job. He's very optimistic. He does think the Chargers both take the division.
Your dad is very objective about the Chargers, and I appreciate that.
Yes. He probably knows more about the Chargers than the Raiders at this point.
Probably. Chorizo says he thinks Papa Shun should wear a Chargers jersey if the Chargers pull out the dub, and Tyler should have to wear a Raiders jersey on the podcast if the Raiders win.
Sure.
You guys ever bet or no?
I think we did once, but I didn't make him wear the Chargers jersey when they won week 4 or whatever. But listen, it's expensive for him to buy a Chargers jersey. Raiders jerseys are pretty much always like $4 in the trash bag aisle at Ralph's. So, if I have to wear a Raiders jersey, I don't mind. It's pretty inexpensive.
There you go. Aswan wants to know, Alex, what if the Chargers play the Eagles in the Super Bowl this year?
I would root for the Chargers, yeah, because the Eagles already won one. So,
yeah.
Also, more financially lucrative.
Yeah, much more. Hey man, the Eagles though, they look good. I mean, the NFC is definitely wide open. How you feeling about those?
We'll win the NFC East and probably get bounced by the Bucks again in the first round or something. I don't know.
You guys got it this year, man. It's gonna be good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if they win the division, they wouldn't play the Bucks in the first round unless the Saints win that division. But I think they could win a playoff game. Host like the.
Yeah, they could win one.
The Niners, maybe. I guess that would be like the.
All depends if they win the division, because the wild card matchups are just all bad if they're.
Has Carson Wentz played the Eagles yet?
No, I don't know.
No, he didn't play them last year. So
I think
he gets to play them twice this year.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I was listening to Bill Barnwell and Robert Mays talk about the NFC East, and they were talking about why the Washington Commanders would trade for Carson Wentz, and they're like, he's probably like the 27th best quarterback in the league, but that's still an upgrade for them. And I'm like, that is so sad. That is so sad that that's what your rationale is. But yeah. I agree, Chorizo, but I've had my Utah time for the last couple of days. I'm okay. I'm good.
We'll give Steven the first 2 minutes of tomorrow's show if Utah beats Florida.
2 minutes.
1.5.
All right, fine.
All right, I think that's a good place to stop for today. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thanks for the super chats this afternoon. If you missed the interview with Braden Fajoko or the Chargers Analytics video that Arjun did earlier this week, stay tuned for that one. We'll be able to kind of clear up our weekly schedule tomorrow as well. Like I said on Twitter, Arjun and I will be going live on Thursdays from now on. We'll be doing Chargers Analytics, make it a little bit more interactive, go over the injury reports, and also talk about some of Arjun's favorite betting picks for that specific week. So stay tuned for that one. I'm really excited about making that change, getting Arjun live on the show more often. I think it's going to be good for everybody. So as always, if you are listening to this, leave a rating or review. Really appreciate that as well. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bolt up.